session. And that way we can introduce the potential buyer. We'd introduce our realtors to do some introductions there, and then the board could ask any questions based on the buyer's comments to us. They're really just going to say hello to us and introduce. And then we could do any motion or motions after the executive session.
Does that sound okay to everybody? So I'll make a motion we consider approving the agenda as amended.
Second.
In favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Since we don't have Cheyenne this evening, join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So on to item 1. Did you want to introduce?
Yeah, and what I'd like to do is just let folks know, I think a lot of people know JT Purvis is one of our brokers, and Donald Teal. And so I'd like to invite Donald up to just kind of do an introduction, and we're kind of waiting for the buyers to come in. But Donald can sort of fill us in on where we're going, and then the executive session is for real estate discussion and also questions, if we have legal questions for our attorneys.
Well, good afternoon, board and everyone else and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to present the board with offers to purchase the 3 properties pursuant to the RFP that you awarded to us. We're going to talk a little bit about those. I'm waiting for the buyers to get here. They're probably trying to find a parking spot right now, so bear with me. But I'll go through a couple of things with you, and I'll let Bob Carver, who's sort of the administrator for the LLC, speak for the group. Bob is also a lawyer, so he's part of a law firm that's part of the investment group. The investment group that wants to buy your property is Iron Line Partners Limited Liability Company. They're headquartered in Phoenix, and I've been to their offices. I've done one other transaction with them. I did not represent them, and represented a seller on a property. And I can just tell you that everything was handled with the highest level of integrity. What they said they did, what was in the agreement they did, and I believe they're presenting offers to the board that you should take very seriously. In each of the offers, whether Miller Valley School, this particular office, the administrative building, or the Dexter Elementary School, one of the things that was important, I think, to the board was that we stick to those appraised prices that you paid money to get. All of the offers, I'm happy to report, are for the appraised price. To kind of give you a broad brush on what will occur, when the board makes a decision, and if the decision is in the affirmative that they would like to move forward with the acquisition, then we will supply information for the exhibits that are in the contract, legal descriptions and other information that needs to be there. We will include the effective date. I'm looking to see if they're here yet. The effective date, which will be the date that the board approves the agreement, if indeed you do. And then we'll have the representative of the purchaser, as it's called in your contract, execute, and representatives of Prescott Unified School District execute. Immediately following that, we'll open escrow. Earnest money will be deposited for each particular property in the amount of $50,000, and we will then order a preliminary title report with a Schedule A and B on it. We'll review those. The buyer will then enter into what's called the feasibility, or sometimes called the due diligence period, in which the buyer conducts inspections that the buyer deems important to their use. That due diligence period is 120 days, and in the event that the buyer needs to extend, there'll be 2 options to extend that by 30 days each. These inspections are designed and set in motion to allow the buyer the opportunity to ascertain that the property the buyer is purchasing is suitable to its intended purposes. And I'm not going to address those purposes. I'll let the purchasers address that with the board directly. They'll go in the properties, they'll have professional inspectors look at them. They'll look especially for things like asbestos, maybe other types of contaminant that may be there. One of the most important things in the contract that will be accomplished during what we call this feasibility or due diligence period is they will go to the city of Prescott and make application for certain entitlements. The entitlements are, can we change the zoning? If so, to what? This is what we want to do. Is that appropriate with the city? This is the type of development we think we want to put in. What's the zoning process? If that entitlement aspect of their due diligence ends up being completed, and I'm just going to make this up, ends up being completed as an example in 60 days, the buyer then will have that option to accelerate the closing. So, you know, you go to the city and, you know, it's 4 weeks for this and 3 weeks for that. So, I might also inform the board that the original offers that were going to be presented were a longer due diligence period than what you have in front of you. And I asked that they shorten that. So we were able to reduce that down to something a little bit more manageable. And when they get here, I will introduce them, but they're not here yet. So I can answer any questions that you might have right now, but I'm going to let their legal counsel answer specific contract questions. Whenever we, as brokers, have a party that's represented by a lawyer, we defer to that lawyer. But in general, I'm happy to answer any questions I can. My partner, JT Purvis, our broker's here. Why don't you come up, JT, and if you've got any questions, we can answer those for you. If there are general questions about how it might work or the process.
Sure, I think we allow the board to ask questions they have based on what you said, and if they're not here, that's okay. We can go in and start kind of discussing the terms, and we can come back out.
That's fine.
And see them then. But
I have a little question, and it could be addressed somewhere, and I haven't seen it yet, but that would be my fault. Aren't these buildings being offered in as-is condition? I mean, we all understand that they're older buildings.
But Maureen, was your question, are they offered as is? Yes, this is an as is purchase.
Okay.
So, and what that means is, it doesn't mean the buyer can't inspect them to make a determination as to the use that the buyer wants them for. And during that due diligence period, perhaps not go through with the transaction based on those findings. But what it means is the buyer is not going to come back to the board and to the district and say, we want you to put a new roof on, and we want you to rebuild this and rebuild that and tear that building down. The as is, it's in fact it states in the agreement, where is as is in your agreement?
I mean, you mentioned asbestos. These are old buildings. You're probably going to find some. I hope it doesn't come back on us.
But they still have the right to inspect.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to look at how significant is what they find. If it's not real significant, they'll overcome that. But if all of a sudden they got a big surprise, that it's a surprise to you guys as well, they'd say, hey, at this number, we can't justify moving forward on doing it.
And that would happen, by the way, if I might, Mr. Superintendent, add to that, that would likely be the case no matter who the buyer was.
Sure.
Because a sophisticated and informed buyer is going to conduct those inspections and make sure that they're doing the right thing for themselves.
In the meantime, our properties will still be on the market and marketed, because this isn't a done deal, of course. We have to take action on it in the first place, but I mean,
Oh yeah, we could take backup offers
yeah.
if somebody comes along.
Well, I don't think it should be a done deal. You should always be open for backups, especially if there's a possibility they may find something and say,
Now they want to be,
Come on in, we're waiting on you guys. Come in.
yeah.
I'm assuming I know people waiting.
I don't think we should go.
Now, if we find that there's oil or gold underneath there, I don't know if they have to disclose that either, because it's as is. So,
The purchasers just came in, and so, Joe, would you like me to introduce
That'd be
Iron Line
fine.
Partners, let them?
Well, let's make sure, if there are other questions, we can finish the questions for the brokers, and then let's do that.
I haven't studied the offer, but is there any kind of extra money associated with any kind of extension? If they want an extension?
yeah, they pay for extensions.
Okay.
You mean, what do you mean?
Extra earnest money?
Oh, to extend the time period?
Yeah.
Yeah, 120.
Yeah, there's funds in there for that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Go ahead and introduce them.
Okay, would you like me to introduce?
Yeah.
Okay, Iron Line Partners, as I mentioned, is headquartered in Phoenix. The two gentlemen that are in the back, Bob Carver is their administrator, and I'll let Bob come up and address the board. And what I'd like you to do, Bob, is tell a little bit about who you are, who your partners are, where you came from, where you got educated, maybe answer any questions they might have at this time.
Great.
Bob Carver.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening. For your record, my name is Bob Carver, K-A-R-V-E-R. My address is 2828 North Central Avenue in Phoenix. I apologize for being a few minutes late. We got stuck in traffic. With me is my partner, Tim O'Neill. And so maybe I can tell you a little bit about us and what we do and how we came to know about your property. So I've owned a home in Prescott since 1999. We used to have a place up on Mount Vernon. One day my wife came to the house and said, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I found where we're going to move. The bad news is it's vacant land. So that meant I bought a subdivision and we built a little project up off of Gurley Street called Brighton Hill. So we've been in and around Prescott for a long time, probably not as long as most of you, but we have come to know and love the town. So a little bit about Iron Line Partners. You don't care about my education and my background, I don't think. But by way of reference, I'm a lawyer. I've been involved in real estate since 1995 in various capacities. I've been involved in residential projects, commercial projects, in almost every market segment from retail through industrial. My current partner, Tim O'Neill, and I came together probably maybe at the height of the recession, 2010-ish, and started kicking around the idea for some projects. Iron Line Partners is an offshoot of that. What does that mean? We are currently developing a significant retail project actually in the city of Flagstaff that we bought from the city of Flagstaff, so a transaction that wouldn't be all that different than this transaction. We've owned probably 400,000 square feet or so of office space in and around downtown Phoenix. We own locally, I have one more home to sell at Brighton Hill, and we also bought the former Jack in the Box up on Gurley and just west of Mount Vernon. So we take a little bit of a different approach when we get involved in real estate projects. We're both born and raised in Phoenix. We consider Arizona our home. We don't do anything outside of the state of Arizona, and we try to take what we think is maybe a longer term, maybe, and a little bit more intelligent approach about what it is that we want to do and how it is that we want to do it. And I think that means for us that we choose to develop properties that are significant to us. They mean something to us. They're not typically just this is a deal because it's a deal. So location, we love location, as we all know. That's the three critical words in real estate: location, location, location. So location is always a driving factor for us, critical factor. Then the next thing we want to look at are what are the infrastructure, what are the utility capabilities. How do they present opportunities with respect to redevelopment of properties, or do they present threats or hurdles to development opportunities? So we want to look at location. We want to look at sort of logistical issues, and included, I would say, in that is sort of the entire land use discussion, which, as you know, is a political process. So that takes a lot of consensus building in the community and with the elected leaders for the community. And so that's a process also. So our process is to try to understand all of the stakeholders and all of the issues that impact a property. And then based on putting all of that together to have an intelligent plan about what that property is and what it should be, and that can change for us. And I'll just give you a quick example. We bought a former industrial building in downtown Phoenix. It was a 50,000 square foot space. It was actually occupied by a well-known office furniture company in Phoenix. They were in the process of downsizing, consolidating. They had a warehouse building that had a showroom in the front. We bought it because we love downtown Phoenix. We love downtown Prescott. We think that downtown urban cores are interesting, architecturally, demographically, seasonally, and we think that urban cores are really important. We bought a building in downtown Phoenix thinking that we would convert the building from an industrial building to an office building. That seems fairly straightforward. We were approached by ASU, and in their Masters of Real Estate Development program, they have a land use graduate class, and they asked if they could do a case study on our building. So we said sure. So the students formed teams, and they had all kinds of different development ideas about this building, which was kind of cool because we got to engage with students, and they cared what we thought, and we got to hear some really good ideas. One of which was, hey, there's an unserved, unmet need in downtown Phoenix for mini storage, self-storage. So you guys throw away your plans because this is we were talking about it on the way up here. This is a slam dunk. You can't go wrong. And as it turns out, the property, we sold it, but the property is presently being developed by a mini storage, a national mini storage developer. So the point is, we have ideas. We think we are reasonably intelligent guys, but we're not. If we're open, and one of our goals is to try to hear what stakeholders have to say and how that can translate into what it is that we're doing in real estate development. So that's who we are, and that's what we do. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Of course, you've been thinking about these three properties.
I have.
And they're in different locations. This is a prime location. This is great. So is that one. Dexter's interesting. As you've been thinking, are you thinking of remodeling, repurposing, or raising and starting over?
Which property would you like to start with?
Dexter.
Probably repurposing, and I think charter school, sort of educational kinds of uses make probably longer terms. That, to me, that property is maybe the biggest head scratcher, if you will, just because it has those challenges. But we've seen is a growing segment, private education, charter schools. So I think that there may not be a very deep demand, but I think it's a fairly inelastic demand for those kinds of uses. So I think we can get our arms around that one that way. This facility, I understand that the district wants to stay here for some period of time, and so that's something that we had to talk about. But I see this as being an extension of downtown with uses, sort of mixed use, and I know that's a term that's used a lot. And what does it mean? I mean, it truly means anything from residential, office, retail, any kind of interesting. Architecturally, this location is very interesting. Locationally, it's superior. So we think, I mean, it's one of those things, I think, that as you get into it, the market will tell you what it should be, but it will be some combination of those things. And the same thing up on Miller Valley. I think that one is a little, I think that's a site that will take careful consideration as it relates to, are buildings historically significant? Are parts of buildings historically significant? Are there features that mean something to the community? Are there things that we need to be thinking about as we look at how to maybe repurpose some of the buildings? Largely, I see that as being mainly a redeveloped site. I don't know what, so I think most of the buildings go away. I don't know that as I sit here. I suspect there will be some asbestos kind of things and some issues that we'll have to think about as we get into it. But I see that as being a destination kind of mixed use, maybe hotel. I can't, again, I mean, we're sort of all getting our arms around these properties. So, but I see it as there's opportunity for retail. I think there's healthcare related and ancillary services that are underserved in that area that could be served. There, with the medical center and the Y there are some synergies I think that can capitalize. So I think that intersection, that corner of the intersection can be, you know, what's necessary in terms of maybe services or service related kind of businesses to fill in the corner. That's kind of how I see it. And what that means to the physical plant, I don't know yet. But there's a lot there, so it's a lot to digest.
That sounds really interesting. Innovation coming, I like that.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion if we want to move into executive session.
Mr. President, I move that the governing board moves into executive session so we can discuss these offers.
This is the,
Oh, I have to read all that,
yeah.
executive session according to ARS, down here, ARS 38-431.03A3 and 7 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys of the public body and to discuss and consult with its representatives concerning negotiations for the purchase, sale, or lease of real property.
Second. Motion's been made, seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
That's why I was like, why? I asked him if he knew anything about it.
Okay, I'll need a motion on item C under executive session.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the executive session and reconvene to the special study and voting session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. So do I hear a motion on item 1, special study and voting session? So having heard no motion, I'd like to direct the administration to work out a few details on the agreement and to get back to us for further discussion in the future. Good?
We'll get to work.
Very good. On to item number 2, a roof.
Is back. The roof is back. Kevin, you want to give us some details? We're working with school facilities boards on this.
School facilities.
Round 2.
Round 2 is school facilities board. They did approve up to about $1.5 million for the roof. There were some minor details that the district did not feel comfortable with moving forward without making sure every T was crossed and every I was dotted. We have gone through those steps again. We have rebid for the roof. Southwest Roofing still came in as the lowest bidder. They did come in lower than their original bid, and I'm very happy for School Facilities Board, but that doesn't affect our bottom line. That's something that School Facilities Board will see. So the next step is for the board to approve Southwest Roofing as the roofing contractor, and then that will begin the process of scheduling to get the roof accomplished. That will also bring in Mid-State Energy and really get these the process moving to make sure we get them all accomplished.
Any other questions? And back to where we were. Which sounds good. Okay.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve Southwest Roofing as the selected vendor for the roofing project at Prescott High School as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Okay, information discussion items. Our next meeting date will be Tuesday, September 6th, unless we call a meeting prior to that. Does any board member have any future agenda items they'd like to discuss? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Can I see the card that we did? Oh, sure. We forgot to bring that in. Yep. Just a second here. Sure. I got it.